Good morning, John. I have to be quiet because there's a baby sleeping in the next room. So I'm gonna try not to be too excited generally. Oh, that is sometimes kind of hard for me. Once I turn on the camera, I tend to spaz out. So a funny thing happened. Your basement flooded. Remember that from last video, that your basement flooded. Turns out that the state of Georgia also flooded. The whole state. It's comparable, you know, your basement, an entire state. I'm there in Georgia right now, a state which has for 3 years had a catastrophic drought. Not the kind of drought where crop prices go up, but the kind of drought where you can't shower anymore. And now they're having gigantic floods. This is something that I kind of somehow missed. Like, I'm here now and it's obviously news here, but I think there must have been something going on in the national scene that overcast the flood thing. Something, you know, more important than like 9 people getting killed and Six Flags being, you know, entirely underwater, entire interstates being flooded, and people like swimming out of their cars to safety. I mean, it must have been a big news story if it was bigger than all of that. Something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, the rain is coming down here in Georgia once again, though it is not as significant as the last flood. But I'm here and I'm taking this footage and it's crazy. There's huge amounts of water. It's raging and it's scary. I really don't want to get any closer than I am to it. And it's just weird that this is happening after 3 years of intense drought. And not just that, but this summer, which is usually a very rainy time in the southeast, the entire summer, 2 months without precipitation in Georgia. It's very strange. And now, as soon as it falls, it's just And the question I've been asking myself is this normal? Is this how it works? Or is there something else going on here? And I happen to be friends with people who know about Georgia rivers. I'm currently in a house owned by a guy who has surveyed almost all of Georgia's rivers, of which there are thousands, and a woman who works for the Georgia River Network, a nonprofit organization that works entirely to be the voice of rivers. So I ask him, what is going on here? And the answer surprised me. First, because they had an answer at all. But second, because it is, as always it seems to be, more complicated than I gave it credit for. So basically there are 2 things going on. There's climate change, which, as the name implies, creates a lot of change in the climate. And so you end up with weird things happening that you don't expect. Like, you expect hurricane season to happen. And in deserts, rain doesn't fall. But because of climate change, stuff is starting to go really haywire. You end up with places like the southeast that usually get a lot of rain in the summer, not getting any rain. And that's not just a big deal for people who want to take showers and eat food. It's also a big deal for trees that need lots of water in the summer so that they don't die. And then when you don't have lots of water, and they do die, the entire ecosystem of the entire southeast changes. Climate change means a lot more change than just the climate. Climate change is like global everything changes. Get ready. The second thing that is happening is this. Georgia is really paved. When you lay down something like a house or a road or a driveway or anything that is impermeable to rain, you end up with way more flooding and way more drought. Now, at first this confused me, but it really makes a lot of sense. Basically, instead of that water hitting the ground and soaking slowly into the groundwater, it shoots straight into the rivers and goes straight down to the ocean. So when you get these floods, the amount of water in the rivers skyrockets immediately. And then as soon as the rain stops falling, it drops just as fast. Whereas before, when the rain was falling on soil, the water would hit the soil and then slowly seep through the whole system. Now the water goes straight into the rivers and never hits the groundwater at all. It just shoots straight into the ocean. And that's a huge reason why urban areas are having a harder and harder time having enough water to quench the thirst of their populations. It's no good, but I'm glad I know that now. And hopefully, John, you're glad you know that too. Next time the water invades your basement, just think of all the horrible things that you've done for water in your life. Not the least of which is constantly converting it to urine, jerk. John, you will see me tomorrow.